Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about the film The Zero Theorem. This is the latest film from Terry Gilliam, and this is him trying to get back to making a film like Brazil. He says this is the final part in his Orwellian trilogy that started with Brazil, 12 Monkeys, and now this. It is nice to see him get back to something like that. It's been a while since he has done something that's like dystopian and weird and have the kind of crazy Terry Gilliam production design. There's a certain thing in both music and movies and anything when you have an artist who tries to go back to their past and do that thing they're so famous for once again. And it might be better than their previous attempts recently, but it doesn't hold up to the thing that he's trying to go back towards. I always wondered when I was a lot more into music, but I think it's true of movies as well, is if you have been a director or an artist for long enough, do you end up influencing yourself in an odd way because you have influenced other people, and has that kind of turned around and affected you? And in this case, this film is written by Pat Russian. This is his first screenplay. Apparently his major influence on this film was Terry Gilliam's Brazil. So in a way, Gilliam is in fact influenced by himself because it was an influence on this film. So it's all kind of come together. As they say a lot of times with a lot of directors, it's the point where they eat their own tail. And unfortunately, I think Zero Theorem is the point where Gilliam actually does eat his own tail. Christoph Waltz, who is a computer genius working for this company, is very displeased with having to come into the office and work from his annoying cubicle and go outside where it's very noisy. But he talks to management with a cameo by Matt Damon, and they have him work on a computer program that determines whether life has any meaning. And while he works on it, becomes frustrated and loses faith in the project and himself, he has a hooker who comes by to kind of entertain him. Matt Damon's character's son comes by to help him out as well, and he has various characters who come in and out of his life where he determines whether life has any meaning at all or if it was just kind of some random occurrence. The Zero Theorem, in theory, and the whole idea of this movie with Terry Gilliam, to me, sounded like a cool idea. It sounded like a slam dunk for a director who I haven't really liked in a little bit. I used to really like Terry Gilliam, and I think you'll find a lot of the reviews for this film will be someone saying, like, I love Terry Gilliam, I've been a fan forever. When I started getting into film, and particularly through Monty Python, I became a fan of Terry Gilliam, particularly Brazil. Brazil was a big movie. My dad loved Brazil. He had the box set with all the different versions of Brazil. I've seen all the different versions of Brazil, and I loved watching every one of them. Zero Theorem wants to be Brazil. It wants to very much be a Terry Gilliam movie, which is an odd thing for a Terry Gilliam film, because I always feel like he directs them to be under his style. He's very much an auteur, but this is the only one that really wants it more than all of them. It succeeds. It is an actual Terry Gilliam film, and you can't take that away from it, really, but it wants it so bad it almost like kind of rejects the notion of it. It's pushing forth all these big ideas and really trying to act like it's going to be able to conquer them and say something about, you know, life having any meaning through these computer programs. Well, this computer programmer lives in a semi-burned church, which is a little too much. Someone looking for faith in an actual church is pushing it too far. Brazil had an idea behind it. It felt very Orwellian. It felt like 1984. It had a lot of randomness to it. Everything was moving around constantly, but I got more of a sense of the supporting characters than I did in the Zero Theorem. I got a real sense of Christoph Waltz. I don't like his performance as much as everyone else does. I do like Christoph Waltz quite a bit. I actually think it's a good performance. I don't think it's one of my favorite Christoph Waltz performances. Him referring to himself as us got annoying after a while. He gives it more of a humanity than the script really gives itself, that the film is always trying to seek but never really reaches. You have all these different characters who seem like kind of shallow echoes of real characters, particularly the girl who he falls in love with. When she gets to certain things, it feels random. It doesn't feel earned from the audience. That was one of the things I felt in Brazil, is you look at the Michael Palin character, you look at the girl he fell in love with, you look at his mother, all these characters, it all kind of made sense when the camera's moving around, when he's running around in the mall, all the things at the end in Brazil. It was crazy, it was kinetic, it was bizarre, but it all seemed to make sense. And the Zero Theorem just feels too out there. There is a funness to seeing a film that does all these things that traditional films won't do, that traditional Hollywood won't do, and a director who will push it further than those traditionalists will, and that's fine. And I like that a lot when it can surprise me and excite me about filmmaking and make me go like, I can't believe somebody could do this and make this film this good by doing this. But the thing is those films, when I think of them, are like actually good and have like a point to them and work in a certain way that's entertaining. And this feels like Gilliam isn't evolving. He's kind of stunted his growth. When a band or a director goes back, it never feels like it's something that really enhances them creatively. It feels like it enhances them for the audience that likes them. And sure, that's what got me into seeing this, but it didn't make me want to see another Terry Gilliam film more. It made me actually want to see another Terry Gilliam film less. It feels like he's reverting back and he's lost any sort of meaning, and maybe this is him trying to find it and failing. It's an interesting idea, I guess, to have a screenplay that's really influenced by one of the movies you in fact have directed. I didn't know that while I was watching it, but when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It either hits you over the head or is just too crazy for its own good. And I think that's the real problem with Gilliam in this film. He obviously has a viewpoint and a certain perspective about the kind of films he wants to make, but this is not the film that highlights how good he is at it. It highlights the weakness in that and the problems with making a Terry Gilliam film. Him using his own influence to make his own movie is pretty bizarre and very Gilliam in itself, but it didn't really work for him. I want to see something from Terry Gilliam that I'm really not expecting. And in a way, Terry Gilliam doing a Terry Gilliam movie is kind of expected at this point. And so the unexpected nature of his style has really been betrayed by him doing his unexpected nature of his style. Terry Gilliam trying to do Terry Gilliam. Sometimes directors can try to do themselves. Wes Anderson has been doing it quite successfully in his last two films, and I think he's rather good at it. But Terry Gilliam is not a director who can do Terry Gilliam. And although I've seen a lot of other directors even less successfully do Terry Gilliam, sure, Terry Gilliam does Terry Gilliam better than anyone else doing Terry Gilliam. But I think Terry Gilliam should not do Terry Gilliam. He should just be the original director that he used to be and not try to be that original director. He should just do something that's not him doing himself. And I think that would have been a lot more surprising and interesting and blown my mind the way his films used to. Him doing himself just makes me cinematically bored. So if you have seen the Zero Theorem and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.